You know, I often wonder if people really understand what it takes for a farmer, rancher, or dairyman to run his or her farm with all the governmental compliances they must meet for that business entity. Environmental regulations, worker regulations, water use efficiency, and a whole lot more. And then there are the elected lawmakers who create those regulations. But do some of those lawmakers truly understand the issues and challenges facing today's family farm? Let's hear what an actual farmer has to say.
If you were to ask any farmer in California today, what's the most challenging thing that you face? You might have some typical answers about unpredictability in markets or unpredictability with the weather, but there's one thing that's a constant that we know is always happening and going to continue happening, and that's regulation. And for us, regulations vary greatly from water usage to air quality control and the diesel engines that we now have in our equipment, to pesticide and chemical usage on the farm. And the regulations don't ever ease. They only keep adding and piling on to what's already there. When it comes to our representatives in Sacramento, I think really there's two parts to it. Us here in the Valley, we have some very, very strong, very good representatives in Sacramento. At the state senate and the assembly level, we have people who understand agriculture, they understand our roots, they understand where we're coming from, and they're willing to go to bat for us in Sacramento. The problem is they are the vast minority of legislators at the Capitol, and their voice, while at times they can be loud, I think it falls on deaf ears. Because a majority of our population comes from the urban centers. It comes from the Bay Area and Southern California. And unfortunately, there is a disconnect between people understanding how the food gets from our field to your table.
I'm not only a member of Congress representing this community, but I'm a local farmer. A farmer who interacts with all of my neighbors and understands what they go through on a daily basis. We've got a lot of work to do to change our agriculture industry to be competitive and to make sure that we've got fair representation in Washington, D.C.
I interact with agriculture on a regular basis, not only as a lawmaker, but as a sister. My own sister is in farming. She and her husband, they grow almonds and they also harvest for dairies. And so farming is a way of life for our family. It's a way of life for our community here, for so many of the people that I have the honor and privilege of representing in Sacramento.
I feel strongly about representing my community first and foremost when I'm in Sacramento. When I'm advocating on behalf of agriculture, of the Central Valley, of the San Joaquin Valley, and that's always been a top priority for me since day one. And in fact, I've worked very closely with my Republican colleagues. In fact, we this year just started the San Joaquin Valley Caucus, a caucus that's not a partisan caucus, but embodies the interests of our region, where people can work together, find common ground, find solutions that make sense. I've had some great partners, Senator Cannella, Assemblymember Kristen Olson, Senator Galgiani. It's a mix of Democrats and Republicans working together to put the Central Valley first, to put agriculture first, and it's been a great success.
As far as agriculture and myself, we go hand in hand. I'm fourth generation of grape grower and almond grower in Stanislaus County. My dad was Secretary of Agriculture back in the Duke Mason era back in the mid-'80s. And so everything I do up there's very few of us that have been raised and actually been on a tractor seat up in Sacramento. I'm one of them. We need more of us.
Well, for us, the water issue has had pretty serious implications this year. We're part of the Modesto Irrigation District, and a normal allotment from the district in a full water year is 42 inches per acre. Last year, we were cut to 24 inches per acre, and this year we're cut to 16 inches per acre. So it's an over 60% reduction in the water that's available to us on the farm. And it's forced us to make some pretty serious decisions as far as our irrigation operations. Part of those decisions was to tear out 10% of our walnut orchards to save on water because we just didn't have enough water to go around to all of the orchards. So we tore out 10%, we'll leave that ground fallow until we know we have enough water to produce a crop there again.
For We're on our 4th year of drought, and we're seeing the cutbacks that are being made to all levels of service in California, most notably to agriculture. Agriculture currently uses about 40% water in the state of California, and I would argue that they've taken the lion's share of cuts when it comes to water cuts. And the urban users are going to start seeing cuts. Environmental cuts have been almost non-existent. So we thought by putting this on the ballot, the water bond, we would have an opportunity to generate some funds to ultimately invest in water infrastructure, which really hasn't been invested in the last 50 years.
Sustainable groundwater management, at the heart of that really is AB 1242, the bill that asks for mitigation of surface water deliveries and groundwater. We've got to have flood irrigation and other methods, groundwater recharge projects, to restore those basins and have long-term health and sustainability.
It's one thing if regulations are designed to protect food safety or food quality, but when California politics get in the way of me being able to provide food to put on your table, that's a problem. And when you have situations like Assemblyman Adam Gray, who comes up with a really good bill, AB 1242, to help protect this community in this area, not only is it not well received at the state level, but he's actually punished by the Assembly Majority Party leader, removed from the Water and Parks Committee, and punished for doing something that actually benefits his constituents. And it's politics like that that really don't have a place in Sacramento, but unfortunately have become the norm.
Minority Leader Kristen Olson co-authored AB 311 to fast-track CEQA for water projects. Any project put forth in the state of California must first have an environmental review. But some legislators play favorites. Certain projects receive special treatment, while others related to agriculture are simply overlooked.
For example, the Sacramento Kings' new stadium in downtown Sacramento and the proposed football stadium in Los Angeles area. The state government went ahead and exempted them from CEQA. What we asked the state legislature to do was to go ahead and expedite, move CEQA forward faster so that we could build the dams and the reservoirs that the voters approved last year in Proposition 1. It takes 5 votes to pass something out of committee. 3 members voted in favor, 6 voted not to vote. They chose not to vote, and by them not voting, the bill died.
San Diego Assembly Speaker Toni Atkins stated that she was committed to make sure San Diego's new stadium would benefit from state legislation, just like other sports facilities receiving CEQA exemptions. To which Kristen Olson said, legislative Democrats love giving CEQA exemptions to pro sports teams, but not for water projects.
Well, I feel worried about what's going on. You know, the depletion of our resources and the extended droughts made for some very challenging times. And not only are we putting agriculture at risk, but we're putting the 800,000 people that live in this region dependent on groundwater for their clean drinking water. And these communities depend on the jobs and the water. And it's a very challenging time to be at the state legislature as we sort through these issues.
Well, this is a historic drought. We need to not only be planning for today and making sure that we've got conveyance to all of our farms throughout the Central Valley, but we also need to be looking long term. We need to be building the water projects for the next generation of farmers. For us to be competitive globally, we're going to have millions of new acre feet of water. That means expanding Shasta, building Sites Reservoir, Friant up above Friant and Temperance Flat, Los Vaqueros, as well as improving and expanding each of our irrigation districts.
My number one priority as it relates to water in California is expediting projects that are going to increase supply. We have to build more storage capacity. We have to get desalination projects into construction, water recycling projects. There are so many ways that we can increase supply and prevent future drought situations. The drought that we're in today, there's no doubt about it, we are in a crisis situation. But the drought has exacerbated an already existing situation. And that is these projects get tied up in government red tape for decades. We need to get them out of government bureaucracy into construction, because if we can capture more water in wet years, then we'll be able to provide more water in dry years for agriculture, for urban uses, for environmental purposes. But right now, we have to focus on getting these projects started. In the meantime, we all have to do our part to conserve, and I'm working very hard to demonstrate to my colleagues in Sacramento that agriculture has paid more than its fair share when it comes to water cutbacks. No civilized society destroys its water supply for agriculture. We have to make sure that we can continue to be a strong agricultural state. The world is depending on us.
I think that what people need to realize when it comes to agriculture is that farmers are concerned about the environment. We're concerned about what we want to do. We want to run a good business, but our business depends upon the soil that we farm, the air that we breathe, and the water that we put on our crops. And the last thing we want to do is jeopardize any of those parts to us being able to produce a crop. I think people tend to think in California anymore that agriculture has become industrial, and that's frankly, it's not true. 85% of the farms in California are still family farms, family owned and operated. I'm the 4th generation on our family farm. I have 3 kids, the oldest is 6, and I just went to his kindergarten graduation, and he was one of 2 kids in the entire kindergarten class who said he wants to be a farmer when he grows up. And I was flattered by that, and I want him to have that opportunity if he so seeks it. And in order for him to have that opportunity, I need to know that I'm doing the best I can to create a sustainable on-farm environment so that there is something for him to take over when he comes out of college.
Laws, rules, regulation, and drought, all challenges to say the least for the family farm. Yet, under those circumstances, our ranchers and dairymen do their best to put food on our tables. I'm Joey Gonzalez with Ag Stories. Again, thanks for watching, and remember, a little dirt on your hands is a good thing.